Hello and welcome to the Oregonian Sports Podcast. I am Bill Oram, joined as always by Brenna Greene. You know what's not the same as always, Brenna?
Mm-hmm.
You are in San Antonio, Texas, site of the men's Final Four coming right up.
Hey, second straight week, I am podcasting from a different state. So, you know, we're just making it a trend. We're not. I'll be back in Oregon next week. But
I do appreciate you. I do appreciate you lugging your gear, which is a microphone. I mean, but you know. In the TV biz, I guess you don't find the microphone to be that difficult to pack.
No.
When you guys travel with real equipment, but nonetheless, appreciate you doing it from from far afield, in the field, the journalistic field.
I do also have to bring my personal laptop because for whatever reason, my work laptop at Coin has the world's worst camera of all time on it. So, which, you know, makes a lot of sense that our laptops would have truly abominable cameras considering we work in a visual medium, but you know, whatever. So yeah, I did also have to bring my personal laptop. So there you go. It's just been really tough sledding, but you know, somebody's got to do it. So
that's true. I mean, when I used to travel all the time, like I was always very grateful to be a print journalist because even like my friends at ESPN who, you know, were primarily print focused, but like Dave McMenamin, Om Youngmisuk, would sometimes need to take, their own tripod, and I guess they would use a phone maybe in those days, but traveling with a tripod in the event that something happened that would require them going on Sports Center.
Yep.
And I had, and as I would buzz past them with my carry-on only luggage. So much respect for folks in the TV biz. When our, on the print side for a long time, our only equipment was, a pen and paper, maybe a tape recorder. And now it basically is all on the phone. Mad respect.
Yes. I mean, yeah, we do not travel light as somebody who was traveling with camera gear for the last 2 weeks. So, it's a good time, but oh well, that's just kind of our reality. In fact, I have a very visceral memory right here in San Antonio covering the Alamo Bowl a few years back, Gardner Minshew playing for WSU at the time, and having to lug all my camera gear. This is a huge tripod, a huge camera. This is not little stuff. Like people think, oh, like maybe it's like, one of those like influencer tripods. No, this thing is heavy duty. A camera that went on that like I could rest on my shoulder. So big shoulder cam. Then I had my backpack and I had my live unit on, and I have a very visceral memory of lugging all of it down the Riverwalk because I needed to go live and being like, I might die right here, right now on the Riverwalk. I might just like collapse and just never get up. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to actually like maybe possibly enjoying San Antonio this time around because although that was a very fun game and a fun experience, that game could have been in Timbuktu for all I cared. It was the same difference. I think people like just a random media rant, but like people are like, oh, you get to go to all these cool places and experience all these cool things. But in actuality, especially in TV, with the amount of like live hits we have to do and unique content we have to generate and things like that, I mean, like a lot of times these places could be anywhere and it wouldn't matter. It would all be the same and we would all be doing, it's one of those things where you never really get to enjoy where you're at because you're just constantly churning. So yeah, it'll be nice this week to not have as much of the churn and actually
the inside of a Courtyard by Marriott looks the same in San Antonio and Spokane. Okay, so Brenna, you were with the women's tournament in Spokane, switching over to the men's in San Antonio. As you look back on the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, what were the highlights for you in Spokane on the women's side, and what did you like? What didn't you like?
Oh, highlights. I mean, just like Paige Beckers, just generally as a highlight. She was unreal, and it was so cool to just be like sitting there asking her questions and like acting as if I'd been covering her all season, which obviously I have not. So yeah, that was really, really cool. Just to be able to experience that. Now, speaking of TV, I forgot to tweet this, but it was just perfect. It was a perfect encapsulation working on TV. So I was up there because I was covering for a bunch of different stations around the country in our station's media group. A lot of people think that like CBS would own Coin because we're a CBS station, but that's
Right.
not the case. CBS does not own the vast majority of the stations that they are affiliated with. Other companies own those, and we're just affiliated with CBS. So our station's owned by a company called Nexstar. And so I was working for a bunch of different Nexstar stations around the country covering for the NCAA tournament up there. And one of the guys that works for a local TV station in Spokane was walking past me in the hallway after Paige's 40-point game. And he goes, "Where were you when Paige Becker scored 40 points in the NCAA tournament?" And I looked at him and I go, "Well, actually, I was going live in New Orleans and Topeka. That's where I was." So, I didn't get to watch any of that second half when she just went off in the Sweet 16. So that was super cool. I was saying this to you before. The double regional format is absolutely one of the most insane things I've ever witnessed. This is my second straight year of covering this double regional format, and it's an insane thing to do. Especially, I took a bunch of videos on the Friday. I'm gonna say this publicly so that I actually do it because I'm really horrible at doing this. I took a bunch of videos on that Friday of the double regional because that day was a 17-hour day. It starts we caught the shuttle at 6:45 because we were like, we don't want to miss it and then have things go haywire and not be there on time. You have to be at UConn practice at 8 a.m. You've got 4 practices you have to cover, 4 locker rooms you have to cover. And then they're like, "Oh, also, you're going to have 2 games." So we had 2 games we had to cover, which means 2 locker rooms we need to be in. On top of all that, I did 9 live shots for my station group. It would have been 12 if it weren't for the fact that 3 of the live shots that were requested conflicted with practice times and locker room sound times. So we ended up saying we can't do that. We got to grab Kansas State practice video and stuff like that. So it is the longest day ever. And it just goes and goes and goes. Here's the perfect perspective. I did not get to watch a single game that day. I pretty much walked into the 2 locker rooms I walked into completely blind. I was like, well, I'll look at a box score and figure out what happened. It's an egregious day, and it's insane to make these girls practice at 8 a.m. or whatever time it is. And I just don't really understand it. There's a lot of, they say they want to make the tournament more equal between the men and the women, and yet they're doing this double regional thing. That's insane. That's insane. I never understood why they switched Selection Monday for the women to Selection Sunday and said, "Oh, we're doing it to be equal." No, what you're doing is you're just taking the shine off of the women because they go second. Everybody's paying attention to the men at that point. Why aren't we keeping it on the same day? I don't understand. It doesn't change anything. And yet you're doing a double regional until at least 2028.
Right.
Because they have it booked out through 2028 with different sites right now. So, yeah, it's a weird situation, and it's just not something that I find to be I just don't find it to be fair. And it's not fair to the athletes, and it's not fair to the people working the games. It's not fair to the media. It's just a rat race. It's insane. So, yeah, it's and then they have to fit in shoot-arounds in there too for the 2 teams that are playing later on in the day. So there's a 2.5-hour period where nobody's allowed out on the floor because these 2 teams are doing shoot-arounds at different times. So that makes it an even longer day because then you could have the practices be closer to game time. Nope, can't do that. So it's just God, Gino had a great rant about it. Let me tell you, shake hands. Yes, I am there. I am with you. I don't really understand it. don't really understand why the move was so necessary. I mean, I know it's probably a financial thing because everything's a financial thing, but it's the strain that they are putting on these girls is just, it's insane. It's not okay. So yeah, there's my rose and my thorn for the NCAA tournament. Yeah.
Do you have a pick in the women's Final Four? I mean, I know you're in San Antonio, but now that the field is set in Tampa, like, do you think UCLA can get it done? Is it UConn again? Like, where are you at on this really cool Final Four field?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all. I really do think that the winner's probably going to come out of the Spokane regional.
Yeah.
Just because of the fact that Paige is just on such a tear right now. It's insane. I'm really looking forward to that UCLA UConn game. I think it's going to be crazy. I think right now you have to go with UCLA because of the size that they have. It's just unreal. Like, Lauren Betts is just, we were like looking around, we couldn't find her, and we're like, what's wrong with us? How can we not see her? Because she's so much taller than everybody else. So yeah, I think I have to go with UCLA right now just because of the amount of firepower they have. I mean, heck, Tamia Gardner, who was on Oregon State last year, is coming off the bench for them. She had a great game in the Elite Eight, hit a couple threes, really cool for her. But I mean, she's a powerhouse. She was fantastic last year in the post, and she's not even starting for them. So, yeah, I think I have to go with them just because of the depth that they have, especially at the forward position.
Well, this is their first Final Four ever, right? So I mean,
it is.
So winning the whole thing out of their first Final Four would be pretty cool. But obviously, I mean, Corey Close has been building something pretty special there for quite a few years. So
yes,
kind of a realization of that of that growth. We talked last week about how you were planning on catching up with the Oregon State what do we want to call them?
The ex-Oregon Staters.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Sure.
The expats, that's what I was going for.
Okay.
The Oregon State expats. And I saw that package, saw you got time with Tamia, Talia, and who am I forgetting? Reagan Beers from Oklahoma, of course.
Yep.
What was that like, and what did you learn kind of on their perspective, looking back at their run with Oregon State?
I just generally, I mean, I think the person that was the most eloquent about it was Reagan. And Reagan was really like, if you watch it back, like, you can see how genuine she is. Like, she was so genuinely happy for the team. And I asked her like 3 questions, and I was like, I'm good. Like, I don't need anything more from you. Like, you've already, like, you have the best sound bites of this package. Because she was just so, like, genuinely cool with how she kind of handled it. Tamia isn't someone who's like very effervescent, might be the right word. I'm not sure. Like, she's just kind of get straight to the point. And then, I think Talia, I think too, the day that I interviewed Talia was just an overwhelming day for her generally, because she was kind of sort of back home in terms of the fact that she, she's from Tri-Cities, which technically isn't, it is not the same media market, but it's as close as she's ever going to get to playing again in Tri-Cities. So I think she just had a lot on her mind. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really interesting. One of the more interesting moments of the weekend for me was actually when USC lost and watching Talia come off the floor. Because she was headed straight back to the locker room. I mean, she was dialed in, and then all of a sudden something in her just stopped. And she 180'd, turned around, looked at the floor for I got a few seconds of it. It was probably like 15 to 20 seconds that she was just staring. And then she turned around and went on her way, because that was the end of her collegiate career.
Those are always such interesting moments, and I saw some of those, at the Rose Bowl this year too, with the Oregon football team.
Yep.
Where, you've got people who, have devoted their lives to this, and who don't necessarily you don't know what their future in the sport is going to be or where it's going to take them. And, the pursuit of what you have spent your entire college career and trying to get to has come to an end. And especially when you're on the path for a championship. I mean, SC was, as we know, very much in the mix for a national championship before Juju got hurt. That is a stacked team, in addition to Juju, but like understandable that, they fell short once they lost her. And I appreciate hearing that Talia had that awareness in the moment to not let the result totally steal the moment from her, because this is the last time you're going to walk off a court as a college basketball player, and you shouldn't storm off. You should be able to like appreciate the power of that moment. And so, good for her to maintain some perspective, even though I'm sure it was incredibly difficult, because that was not where anybody at USC saw their season ending. And
by the way, we talked about the transfer portal last week. One of the girls on USC who had an incredible game in the Sweet 16, a freshman. I mean, she had like around 20 points in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Like, it's no one is immune, okay? Like,
no.
Yeah, she's in the transfer portal and she's out. And it was like I saw that and I was like, whoa, like you guys literally got knocked out like 2 days ago or something, It's
such a weird, I mean, obviously we talk about the transfer portal all the time, but like Jadrian Tracy at Oregon told James Crepia, my colleague at the Oregonian, before the tournament started, that he was absolutely coming back to Oregon. And he's in the portal and he's gone. Oregon State's roster continues to take hits. Basically everybody's in the portal at Oregon State.
Yeah.
And by the way, I will say, like, I appreciate the hustle of like asking these guys what their plans are, but the reality is, like, guys,
it doesn't mean anything.
One, it doesn't really mean anything, and in so many cases, they don't even necessarily know. If you're asking somebody before the NCAA tournament what their plans are, their plans could change dramatically based on what happens in the NCAA tournament, and once they get removed from the season a little bit, talk to their family, talk to the people who are out there working on their behalf. But that said, I mean, gosh, in this day and age, you almost owe it to yourself to be in the transfer portal to explore your options and to explore your value. Like, it just is the way that sport has evolved, that college sports have evolved. So
yeah, it's very jarring for me to see so many programs doing like graphics like, I'm back. You're like, yeah, you're supposed to be back.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. This is getting out of control. And like the level of programs that are doing those I'm back graphics. I'm not going to call anybody out by name, but it's
so one for me is like, so the University of Montana has a sophomore guard named Money Williams, and he's pretty good. He had a huge game against Portland State, like 36 points in overtime, in an overtime loss. And I have no doubt that he would have options to go somewhere else. But like, he came off the bench for the Grizz in the second half of the season. And it's like you're living and dying with whether or not Money Williams is going to come back to Montana. And it's like, and he's coming back, which is great. Like, good for Montana, good job, like figuring out how to keep a good player. But it's like, we're doing this at all levels of, at least Division I. And it's, I agree, it's jarring. I don't really think it's sustainable. And I don't think it's, and I was having this conversation with Nick Daschel recently, and tell me what you think, where it has the potential to be more damaging to basketball than football for reasons that are
unequivocally yes.
Because like in basketball, I think you develop more of a connection with players than in football. You are closer to them.
You see their faces.
See faces, absolutely. Like, it's just a more intimate experience. And so when those people are turning over every season, football, there is a level of remove and separation anyway. So I think that that's real, and I think it is going to impact. It already is, and is going to continue to impact basketball even more. And by the way, to say nothing of the on-court product, to wit, look at the last two Sweet 16s that haven't had a single mid-major participant. And now you have 4 number ones in the Final Four. I think that's all related to the consolidation of talent.
Yeah, I mean, let's just look at it from a pure numbers standpoint. There's like 100 guys on a football roster, and there's 12 guys on I think the number might not quite be 12. I think it might be like 13 or something on a basketball team. Like, it's just the numbers are just so different. And of those, however many guys on a roster, max 8 to 9 are playing. It's mostly 7 to 8. So really you're getting a very close-knit connection with these players, and then they all leave. I also would just like to say that who the heck is going to be honest with you during the NCAA tournament and say, no, I'm not coming back next year in the middle of an NCAA tournament run? That's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Like, it's just, why would you do that? That would be being like teams would see that and they'd be like, well, that's selfish. Why would we want to go recruit that guy? Like, he just totally like tanked himself with his own team. So I just don't think that the question really like does anything for me. It doesn't it doesn't achieve anything in terms of I don't think you're ever going to get a fully truthful answer. It doesn't achieve anything because, like you said, things change. And it doesn't achieve anything because, like, there's a certain amount of, like, putting a player on the spot and, like, making him answer that sort of thing. And it's just an uncomfortable situation, I think, for everybody involved. And I just don't know if it really accomplishes anything in this day and age,
Yeah.
I mean, there is no repercussions in that situation for quote unquote lying.
Yeah. Or changing your mind, lying. But like, but I agree. I mean, there's nothing good that comes of that, because even if a player says in good faith that they are coming back, things could change. Somebody calls you up and says, hey, we can get you X over it. You go to Old Dominion, we'll get you $3 million. I'm obviously making this up. Okay, I'll go play basketball at Old Dominion.
Yeah. And to be fair, I totally understand asking it. I totally get it. Like, I get that that's like journalism is a fact-finding mission.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if in today's day and age it carries
it adds any value.
If it carries any weight anymore. And that's something that just has changed over the years. Back in the day, that would carry some weight. Now, it's not the same landscape anymore. It's just not. It's the wild, wild west out there in college athletics. And everybody's just fighting to survive. So, it's unfortunate because it's ruining fandom. It's ruining being a fan.
So in the men's tournament, as I alluded to, we have 4 number 1 seeds.
Mm-hmm.
The 4 best teams coming into the tournament proved to be the 4 best teams in the tournament: Florida, Auburn, Houston, Duke. It's been, I believe, 17 years since this happened. Do you like an NCAA tournament that gives us the 4 best teams at the end?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I guess ask me in a few days. But, I mean, like, I've been to the last 2 NCAA tournaments, and yes, that San Diego State game was super fun. But then you got to the championship, and it was just like, all right, here we go again. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then last year, NC State's here, and it's like, look, the magic is run out. Like, you keep trying to make fetch happen, it ain't gonna happen. So I'm hoping that this year, I guess one of the nice things about the portal, let's spin some good stuff about it, is that I think it has allowed for more parity at the very top of the sport. And because, all these players can't be on the same team anymore. And a lot of times they're like, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else to find more playing time. And so that means that I think that there's more options for good teams at the top of the sport. And there's not going to be as many like super teams anymore. Just because everybody, quite frankly, there isn't enough money to go around to do something like that. And I mean, maybe in some places there are, but those places are very few and far between. And also that you then, if you're in that sort of situation, you aren't going to get the minutes that you want. And then you're going to have to go transfer to a lower program after the next year or something like that. So, I do like that we have a situation like this where, it really seems like to me, you could have anybody in that game come Monday, and nobody would bat an eye at that. So it's an interesting. I'm not upset about it this year. I think that it's a fun thing that the sport is really able to celebrate that. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, for me right now, I'm cool with it. I'm good with it, and I'm hopeful that we have some good games here in San Antonio. What do you think?
I think good games in San Antonio, great. I think close games are great. But I
Yep.
do think, pretty universally, the NCAA tournament has been celebrated as like the best sports event in America.
Yeah.
And that is because of it being unpredictable.
Yes.
Especially the first 2 weekends.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that we are in an age where the sport is now structured where it's more likely that the blue bloods or the top seeds are going to buzzsaw their way through the field, I do not think is a good thing. Like, I think these are four really good teams. I'm excited to watch them play each other. But if we are in an age where, I've heard, the SEC commissioner, Greg Sankey, has called for more power conferences to have, or more teams from power conferences in the tournament, fewer automatic bids from, mid-major conferences. I've heard coaches make the same point on both the men's and women's side. And I just think that if we are moving in the direction where that makes sense because of how things are structured, then you need to look at the way things are structured. And so I don't know what the answer is there. I just feel like it's moving in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I will say, one of the hallmarks of the NCAA tournament is that everybody loves a Cinderella story. And I so get that. And, obviously I come from a background where a Cinderella story is what literally saved the university I went to. If it weren't for that Gonzaga basketball team making a run in 1999, Gonzaga would not exist anymore. Period. Like, it's not going to happen. So, they were about to close their doors. So I certainly appreciate a Cinderella, and it does make me incredibly sad that this is where we're at. I mean, I will say, like, one of the things that's, I think I mentioned this earlier. I mentioned this last week about the coach that I covered at GU. Now that's now the head coach at Valpo. Like, those mid-majors now have just become development factories for the Power Five, and that's really unfortunate to me. And that is something that I think the NCAA tournament loses its luster a little bit without those guys, because there's nothing America loves more than a good old-fashioned underdog story.
Yeah.
So with that happening, that is the harsh reality of what is going on in college sports right now. And I don't think it's the bridge has been crossed. It isn't going back.
Yeah.
It is not going back. So hopefully we have more Cinderellas in our future, but I would imagine that there will be less and less of them, and that is just unfortunately the reality.
I would agree. The one other thing I wanted to touch on before we get out of here, Brenna, I wrote about it this week. Aaron Fentress has written about it. I did make a video about it, the Oram Forum. But we are coming to the end of the season. Toumani Camara, probably the Blazers' only candidate for any postseason awards. He is, in my opinion, has clearly earned a spot on one of the two all-defensive teams. That's 10 slots. I have a fear that the Blazers' record will end up being his undoing, because there are so many voters who look at a team like the Blazers casually or have not paid attention, or see that the Blazers have the number 17 defense and are unimpressed and will overlook Toumani Camara.
Yeah.
Am I being too paranoid about this? Like, do we have trust in the electorate that they will recognize that the Blazers have vastly outperformed expectations, that having the number 17 defense when they have been in the bottom 4 for the 4 years before Toumani Camara came to Portland represents a dramatic growth and is a direct representation of his impact. What do you think? I mean, do you think the voters? Do you think the voters are going to get it right?
What about being a Blazers fan your entire life makes you think that we should trust the electorate? No. Like I appreciate the push for Toumani right now. I don't think it's gonna amount to anything, to be completely frank with you. Like, that's just the reality, unfortunately, of being a Blazers fan generally, but especially being a Blazers fan in this day and age. I think that maybe next year, like, I just think that we're probably a year away from Toumani really getting the flowers that he deserves. And
it's interesting because there has been sort of this Toumani Camara hype this year, and I think it is outside of Portland too. Like, I mean, Jason Quick from The Athletic did a great piece where he talked to a bunch of different players about being guarded by Camara.
Yeah.
And I mean, the praise that was heaped on him, and you hear it from coaches.
Yeah.
I do think that there is a real awareness of him, at least within the league. But like, let's just say,
those people don't vote.
The beat writer for the Charlotte Hornets, and this, I actually do know who that is, so this is not a direct hit at that person. But like, just as an example, somebody who's only watched the Blazers twice is not sitting around and like watching, the Blazers on League Pass. Does that person recognize the impact that Camara is making? And so that's where I would say I do think the Blazers are doing a good job by really making a push for Camara, because like the campaigns can work. The marketing campaigns to get your players, extra votes, they do work. They get your attention as a voter. And so with the Blazers saying, hey, vote for Toumani Camara for Defensive Player of the Year. If I'm a voter, I'm like, I'm not going to vote for the guy from, a team that didn't even make the play-in, to be Defensive Player of the Year. Like, there's too many other guys who are more deserving for that particular award. But when it comes to filling out an all-defensive ballot, which is a hard thing to vote for, those two teams are hard to fill out. That name is, kind of, drilled into the back of my brain, and maybe I'd throw him on a second team or something like that. But I'm with you. I think that, there's a real chance that he gets left off, which I think would be a shame, because I think he's had one of the best defensive seasons in the league. The fact that he leads the league in charges by double digits is really impressive. Tom Haberstroh has basically devoted himself on the Blazers broadcasts in the second half of the season to making the case for Toumani. He's got a lot of nifty stats that paint a picture of an elite defender. I just don't know if it's going to be enough.
Thank you, Matt Ishbia. Appreciate you.
It is incredible that we have come around enough that you don't feel as bad about the DeAndre Ayton acquisition anymore.
Nope.
Because if it meant getting Toumani Camara, then I guess it was worth it.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It looks like an incredible trade now. So, yeah. I mean, it's the throwaway piece in the trade, from the Suns' perspective. Ooh, they could really use him right about now, I think.
Yeah, no kidding.
Rough
well,
go over there.
They need more than that.
Oh yeah, they do.
Okay, Brenna, I think you are in need of some Texas barbecue, or maybe a little bit of Tex-Mex down on the Riverwalk. Something good for dinner.
I'm in need of a large margarita, and then maybe I'll think about food.
Okay. Well, enjoy San Antonio. It's one of my favorite cities in the country to visit for work. Been there many times. I've got a couple recommendations for you offline. But enjoy yourself down there, and we'll look forward to a recap next week when we reconvene on the Oregonian Sports Podcast.
See ya.
Bye.